In the year we married, I had a hysterectomy for my husband, who insisted on being child-free. 20 years later, on the day of Moore Enterprises stock distribution conference, my husband, who had been determined to be child-free with me for 2 decades, brought a child on stage. This is my son, Tommy Moore. Today, I will transfer 99% of Moore Enterprises' assets to his name. Watching Jack Moore's mouth move from the stage, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. As I was about to go on stage to question him, 2 security guards quickly restrained me and dragged me away from the venue. Before being taken out, I saw Jack Moore signing the property transfer agreement with a loving smile, guiding the child's hand. The security guards threw me into the basement of Carter Estate, locked the door, and left. As soon as they were gone, my father called. "Ashley, we've been helping the Carters for 20 years behind Howard's back. Today is the stock distribution conference. Howard must have given you a surprise, right?" Tears finally burst out of control. I said to my father with a trembling voice, "Dad, I want to divorce Jack Moore. Withdraw all the investments in the Carters." I don't know how much time had passed when I heard the sound of the basement door being unlocked from the outside. "Ashley, are you okay?" Jack Moore's familiar voice sounded from above. The voice that once always reassured me now sounded like a ghost. I subconsciously turned away. A pair of large hands gently covered my shoulders. "Ashley, don't be upset. Be good. Come home with me." A huge physical discomfort surged from my stomach, and I couldn't stop gagging. I pushed Jack Moore's hand off my shoulder and looked at him, sobbing, "Jack Moore, don't you think you owe me an explanation? 20 years ago, for your idea of remaining child-free, I had a hysterectomy. Now, you have a child with another woman, and you're giving away the business we've worked so hard for 20 years to him. On what basis?" Jack Moore's hand, which had been stiff on my shoulder, dropped down. The tenderness in his eyes was replaced by impatience. "Ashley, we were penniless when we first got married. Now that the Carter family has such a large fortune, how can we not have an heir? I kept it from you because I was worried that you would be angry and it would affect your health. I did it all for your good. My child is also your child. He will be filial to you in the future. As for the business, Ashley, I don't agree with what you said. The reason why the Carter family's business bears the Carter name is that I've worked hard for 20 years to build it. Strictly speaking, this business doesn't belong to us, it belongs to me. So, I can handle it however I want." At this point, Jack Moore sighed, squatted down, touched the top of my head, and his tone became gentle again. "But, Ashley, you and I have lived together for 20 years. You were with me during those early hard days. I, Jack Moore, am not an ungrateful person. I will still love you like I did in the past for the rest of my life. You can spend as much money at home as you want. If I say another word, I'm not a man." After saying that, he subconsciously put his arms around me. Jack Moore's words made my whole body stiffen. 20 years ago, Jack Moore was the most down-and-out family in the North City slums. He only had the money he earned from driving a taxi/Uber to support his mother, who had cancer, and his ex-girlfriend's daughter, who had leukemia. Even though he drove for 20 hours a day, his family was still heavily in debt. I met Jack Moore when I accompanied my father to the hospital for a work inspection. At that time, he was kneeling outside the doctor's office, tears streaming down his face, begging the doctor to save his daughter. His head was bleeding from hitting the hospital floor repeatedly. I took pity on him and had the hospital waive all medical expenses for his mother and daughter, and arranged for the best doctors to treat them. In the end, although his daughter's life could not be saved, his mother finally recovered. To protect a young man's self-esteem, I kept all of this from him. Afterward, I arranged for him to work as a driver at home. At that time, my father was arranging for me to work at the grassroots level of the family's business. Jack Moore naturally thought that I was just an ordinary employee, and I naturally didn't expose my identity. Over time, Ashley and Jack Moore developed feelings for each other. When we got married, my father tried every possible way to dissuade me, but I insisted on hiding my identity and marrying him. On our wedding night, Jack Moore held his daughter's ashes in front of me, tears streaming down his face. Ashley, I don't want to have any more children. The only child I will ever have is now in my hands. I thought of Jack Moore kneeling in front of the doctor's door, hitting his head until it bled, and hugging this fragile man in my arms. The next day, I went to the family's hospital and had a hysterectomy. After marriage, with my secret help, Jack Moore founded Moore Enterprises, and in these 20 years, it has become the most promising young enterprise in New York City. But Jack Moore doesn't know that the largest investor in Moore Enterprises today is still our Lynn family. I never thought that there would be a crisis between Jack Moore and me in middle age, but now this is not a crisis, my whole world has collapsed. Tears streamed down my face. Perhaps those past events moved me again. I struggled out of Jack Moore's arms and looked at him. Howard, even if I beg you, we can keep that child, but let that child call me Mom in the future, and break up with that woman outside. If you can do that, we can continue to live the rest of our lives in peace, okay? Seeing me say this, the tenderness in Jack Moore's eyes instantly disappeared, and a slightly disgusted look surged up. As expected, people who have never been mothers are ruthless. Do you know what your words just now mean to a child? I can't let my son not have his biological mother by his side. Emily Thompson, you know I hate being threatened the most. I can't break up with the child's mother, and the child can't call you Mom. As for whether we will live the rest of our lives in peace, you, a nearly 50-year-old housewife, have no say in that. There are still some words on the property transfer that I need to sign. The basement is cold. Calm down and go out by yourself. After saying that, Jack Moore got up and left without looking back. I looked at Jack Moore's resolute back, my throat choked with pain. My cell phone screen lit up. It was a message from my father. Ashley, the withdrawal of investment will take time. Give Dad 5 days, and Dad will turn the millions of dollars of equity in his son's hands into hundreds of millions of dollars of debt. If you agree, Dad will do it. Along with the message was a divorce agreement drafted by the family's lawyer. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and replied to my father, "Do it, Dad." The next morning, I was awakened by the children's noise. I glanced at the space beside me and knew that Jack Moore had slept in the study again last night. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and just went out when a boy of about 10 years old ran into me. I bent down and looked. It was the one next to Jack Moore yesterday, Tommy Moore, his son. Before I could speak, a delicate female voice came from downstairs. "Tommy, don't run around in the house. Come to Mommy here." That child gave me a hostile look and ran back in the direction of the voice. I just came back to my senses when I met the young woman who came up to meet me. No wonder that boy looked so good. It seemed that he had inherited his mother's good looks. Jack Moore must have heard the sound here, and he ran over quickly, standing next to that woman and looking at me. "Ashley, I forgot to tell you and I want Tommy to come back home to live in the future. She is Tommy's biological mother, Sophia Green." I was worried that Tommy would have difficulty adapting, so I called Chelsea over together. As a mother, I hope you can understand. I looked at Jack Moore coldly. "What do you mean? Do you want the 4 of us to live together lovingly in the future?" Jack Moore's face instantly fell. "Emily Thompson, I'm saving your face in front of Chelsea. Don't go too far. Chelsea and her son have suffered for 10 years outside. What does it matter to you if they come back to live for a while?" After saying that, he subconsciously stood in front of Chelsea. Seeing this, Chelsea immediately took a step forward, her tone revealing a hint of grievance. "Emily Thompson, I won't live here for long. I'll leave after Tommy gets used to it. Don't let me affect your and Howard's many years of marriage. Although Chelsea said so, she subconsciously grabbed Jack Moore's forearm. We are all women, so of course I understand her mind of being soft on the surface but provocative in private, but men just like this kind of thing. Jack Moore pulled Chelsea into his arms. Emily Thompson, did you hear that? Put away your narrow-minded thoughts. Chelsea still needs to be with the child. Go to the kitchen and cook. Tommy loves roast beef the most. Make it light. After saying that, he took Chelsea's hand and turned around to greet Tommy Moore. Before turning around, Chelsea looked at me, a provocative smile in her eyes. Oh, right, Emily Thompson. Tommy doesn't eat ginger, so don't put it in when you cook. Jack Moore didn't turn around, reached out and gently caressed Chelsea's head, his tone indulgent. Our Chelsea is indeed the best mother in the world. Tommy is really lucky to have you. After saying that, he looked at Tommy Moore, not far away, and opened his arms. Tommy, come to Mommy and Daddy quickly. Daddy bought you your favorite action figure yesterday. Did you show it to Mommy? I looked at the family of three hugging each other, and a huge bitterness welled up. It seemed that I was always the most superfluous one. Since they loved each other so much, there was no reason not to fulfill them. I sighed inwardly, put on my apron, and went to the kitchen. 3 hours later, I cooked the meal by myself. Jack Moore and Chelsea each led Tommy Moore to sit at the dining table. Tommy Moore didn't even wash his hands after playing with mud, and he directly grabbed a piece of roast beef and stuffed it into his mouth. Jack Moore, who had always been clean, not only didn't say anything, but instead looked at Tommy Moore with a loving smile. Who knew that Tommy Moore just put the roast beef in his mouth and spit it out, then cried out, "Wah! Daddy, this roast beef is so unappetizing. There must be a lot and lots of ginger in it. Didn't Mommy tell the nanny that Tommy doesn't eat ginger? Why did you put so much?" I was surprised, picked up the chopsticks, and tasted them. There was no taste of ginger at all. Jack Moore's face instantly turned cold, and he glanced at me, picked up the chopsticks, and put a piece of meat in his mouth, then slammed the table over, roaring at me hoarsely, "Emily Thompson, what do you mean? Chelsea told you not to put ginger in, and even I heard it. Are you deaf? Can't you taste such a strong ginger taste in this roast beef? I think you did it on purpose." Chelsea comforted Tommy Moore while sobbing, "Emily Thompson, I know you don't like our mother and son, but if you have any emotions, come at me. Why are you making things difficult for a child? If you don't like to cook this meal, just say it, I'll do it. Why did you make it like this?" Tommy Moore stared at me fiercely. Seeing me in a daze, he picked up the plate on the ground and threw it at me. A sharp pain swept from the top of my head to my whole body. The sharp corners of the broken plate directly pierced my skin. I looked at Jack Moore, and a bitter smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. "Jack Moore, the words you say against your conscience are disgusting. I'm allergic to both fresh and cooked ginger. Have you forgotten? Our family's meals have never had ginger in the past 20 years. The air in this house was filled with a rotten smell." After saying that, I took off my apron and turned to leave. That night, my father called me and told me that most of the investment withdrawal had been completed. Just as I hung up my father's cell phone, Jack Moore called. Jack Moore, on the other end of the cell phone, was a little embarrassed. "Ashley, I'm sorry. I was just too eager to protect my son. Can you understand a father's heart? Tomorrow is Mom's birthday party. Her health hasn't been good for these years. If you, as the daughter-in-law, don't attend, what will outsiders think?" Thinking of what my father had told me on the cell phone earlier, that I must act as usual these days, I took a deep breath and agreed to Jack Moore. Jack Moore seemed very happy. "Which motel are you in? I'll pick you up." I looked at the robin in the yard and replied in a low voice, "No need, I'll go there myself tomorrow." After saying that, I hung up the cell phone. After I hung up the cell phone, I received a gift card / cash gift envelope from Jack Moore. Take a taxi / Uber tomorrow. Don't take the bus. I opened it. $20. I suddenly laughed, but as I laughed, tears flowed out. The next morning, when I arrived at the Moore family estate, most of the guests had already arrived. From afar, I saw Grandma Carter holding Tommy Moore in her arms, her smile smoothing out her wrinkles. When Jack Moore saw me, he quickly came forward and pulled me aside. Ashley, today is Mom's birthday. To make the old woman happy, I brought Tommy and Chelsea here. In front of the guests, you know what to do. As soon as Jack Moore finished speaking, Grandma Carter pulled Tommy Moore and Sophia Green towards me. Howard, why did you bring this jinx here on such a happy day? Tommy said she deliberately made things difficult for him yesterday. No wonder she can't have children, it's all because she's so vicious. What's the big deal about making things difficult for a child? 20 years, you can't carry on the family name / have children for your man, so what? Do you want our Carter family to be completely extinct? Dream on. I turned to look at Jack Moore. He quickly stepped forward to comfort Grandma Carter. Mom, those are all misunderstandings. Let's not mention the past. Today is your birthday, you should be happy. Grandma Carter was obviously in a good mood today. After glancing at me, she pulled Tommy Moore and left. Jack Moore looked at Sophia Green and then at me. Ashley, Chelsea hasn't seen such a scene before. I'll go with Mom to entertain the guests. You take Chelsea around and tell her about the proper etiquette. After saying that, he turned and left. Jack Moore's back gradually disappeared. Sophia Green grabbed me from behind. Emily Thompson, if you know what's good for you, you should get out of the Carter family as soon as possible. Howard is kind-hearted and can't bear to kick you out, but you can't be shameless. I'm grateful that you've been with Howard through so many years of hardship, so we've agreed that if you're willing to get lost, we can give you $100,000 as compensation for your emotional distress. This $100,000 is enough for you to live the rest of your life without worry. I turned around and looked coldly at the young woman in front of me and asked her in a cold voice, "Did Jack Moore discuss this with you?" "Of course, otherwise, why do you think Howard would always protect me and leave me alone with you?" Just as I was about to say something more, Sophia Green aimed at the champagne tower behind her and fell straight down. She looked at me with a smile and howled towards Jack Moore not far away, "Howard, come and save me." When Jack Moore arrived, blood trickled down Sop. He had Green's body from the champagne all over the floor. Jack Moore roared like crazy at the people around him, "Go, call an ambulance." Then he slapped me in the face. "Emily Thompson, you vicious woman, you're shameless." "Howard, it wasn't me." Before I could finish speaking, Tommy Moore didn't know where he came from, pointed at me and cried, "It's her, Daddy, she pushed Mommy, she's an old witch, a bad woman. Daddy, hit her." Anger burned wildly in Jack Moore's eyes. He picked up the wine bottle on the table and smashed it directly on my head, then threw 2 pieces of paper out of his bag and threw them on my face. "Divorce agreement. Sign it." After throwing down a cold sentence, he picked up Sophia Green and ran away. For 3 days in a row, there was no news from Jack Moore. On the last day, I received a message from my father, "Ashley, Dad has taken care of everything. Finalize the divorce, and quietly wait for the good show to begin." I took out the divorce agreement that Jack Moore had thrown at me, signed my name, and sent it to his workplace / office. Then I blacklisted Jack Moore and turned off my cell phone. Inside the top floor workplace / office of Moore Enterprises, Jack Moore looked at the brand new marriage certificate with Sophia Green in his hand and smiled. He put his arms around Sophia Green's waist and grabbed her. "Today, the last step of the property transfer is completed. We're also married. It's a double celebration. We should celebrate." As he said that, he kissed Sophia Green's lips. When things got intense, the door to the workplace/office was suddenly pushed open from the outside. The assistant stomped his feet anxiously as he looked at the scene in front of him. He turned around and stammered, "Mr. Carter, something bad has happened. Our largest investor has withdrawn his investment. Not only has the capital chain been broken instantly, but those shareholders are demanding redemption like crazy. Now, those millions of dollars of equity have turned into hundreds of millions of dollars of debt." Jack Moore froze in his seat. The assistant was still crying nonstop, "Mr. Carter, please think of a solution. Those shareholders have also called the media. If this matter gets out, then our Moore Enterprises will have no chance to recover." Jack Moore pushed Sophia Green away from his body, stepped forward, and grabbed the assistant's collar, questioning him sternly, "How is that possible? Our Moore Enterprises' largest investor hasn't met me in 20 years, but our friendship is as deep as brothers. How many storms has he helped our Moore Enterprises through? Now that everything is fine, how could he suddenly withdraw his investment?" The assistant was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. He hadn't been by Jack Moore's side for a few years, so he naturally didn't understand the kind of brotherhood Jack Moore was talking about. "Mr. Carter, what's impossible about that? The lifeline of Moore Enterprises has been controlled by that investor all these years. He said he would withdraw his investment, and he did. You should think about whether you've done anything to offend him recently, otherwise, why would he withdraw his investment when everything is fine?" In an instant, all the blood rushed to the top of his head. Jack Moore then realized that he had been living too comfortably under the protection of that investor all these years. No matter what the storm was, as long as he made one call, things would be resolved smoothly. As the helmsman of Moore Enterprises, he had lost the ability to analyze problems and think about solving them. But he suddenly thought of that cell phone. He pushed Sophia Green, who was stunned, to the side, opened the safe, found the cell phone that he had always used to contact the investor, found the number of the only contact in it, and dialed it. But the cell phone, which used to be answered instantly, was now repeatedly telling him that it was turned off. In an instant, Jack Moore was struck by lightning. He sat dejectedly on the ground, staring blankly at the cell phone, but he didn't have time to be stunned anymore. The assistant quickly followed up, his voice trembling. "Mr. Carter, the girls at the front desk can't stop them. Those shareholders have already rushed in. You should go out and take a look." Jack Moore scrambled up from the ground, but before he could go out, he was surrounded by shareholders and the media. Those shareholders, who used to smile, now rushed at him like wolves and tigers. "Jack Moore, you liar! Pay up! We want to redeem our shares now. Pay back the money!" The reporters also rushed up like crazy, pointing their cameras at Jack Moore's face. "Mr. Carter, is Moore Enterprises' current equity redemption crisis because you've been falsely reporting your financial statements every year? Have you been deceiving the shareholders? Mr. Carter, you just held a stock transfer conference some time ago. Are you planning to cash out and run away as soon as possible? Mr. Carter, Moore Enterprises has been operating for 20 years. Is it because your ability is very average and you've been relying on the support of that mysterious investor?" Jack Moore looked at these people whose mouths were opening and closing as if they were going to eat him, and he fainted straight to the ground in the workplace/office. When Jack Moore woke up, he found that he was still in the workplace/office. Like before, he fainted, and the trembling assistant was pacing back and forth beside him. Jack Moore wanted to get up, but he found that he was still paralyzed on the ground. He struggled to look up and found that Sophia Green was sitting in his chair, looking at him coldly. Jack Moore endured the discomfort coming from his body and looked at Sophia Green. "Chelsea, I'm not feeling well. Come and help me up." As he said that, Jack Moore looked at Sophia Green and stretched out his hand, but Sophia Green was still sitting in the chair and didn't move at all. Jack Moore, you old fox, you've planned everything, haven't you? You transferred all your broken equity to my son, but now that equity has turned into hundreds of millions of dollars of debt. You're plotting against our mother and son, aren't you? Jack Moore was stunned as he looked at the woman in front of him. He suddenly felt dizzy again. Seeing this, the assistant quickly stepped forward to help Jack Moore up. Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, let's not talk about this now. The shareholders saw that you fainted and left first. Take this time to quickly think of a solution. The assistant's words made Jack Moore much clearer. He sat on the sofa and took a long breath, looking at Sophia Green coldly and saying, "If you're not at ease, then transfer the equity back to me." As soon as he finished speaking, Sophia Green threw an agreement at Jack Moore. "It's already been drafted. Sign it." Jack Moore was stunned as he looked at the equity transfer agreement, but after a few seconds, he still chose to sign his name. Seeing this, Sophia Green finally felt relieved. She didn't even look at Jack Moore again, turned around, and left the workplace/office. Before leaving, she looked at the assistant and said coldly, "Don't call me Mrs. Carter in the future." "Who is your Mrs. Carter when I'm so young?" "Jack Moore, I'm going to divorce you. I'm also going to sue you for marriage fraud." After saying that, she slammed the door of the workplace/office and left without looking back. Only Jack Moore and the assistant were left in the huge workplace/office. Sophia Green's departure made Jack Moore's mind clearer. He thought of what the assistant had said to him before he fainted. He replayed everything he had done these days, but he didn't realize where he had offended that godlike investor. Then he scratched his head and looked at the assistant. "Go, spend a lot of money to investigate and find out the identity of that investor and tell me." The assistant agreed and turned to leave, muttering as he left, "If I had known this would happen, what was I doing in the first place? This boss is too comfortable." These words didn't escape Jack Moore's ears, but Jack Moore was no longer in the mood to scold his subordinates. After all, at this time, being willing to work for him was already showing consideration for old feelings. Besides, he was right, he had been living too comfortably these years, and he didn't have any sense of crisis at all. Jack Moore hadn't been this anxious for a long time because those impatient shareholders and the media wouldn't give him too much time. A piercing pain came from his head again. This was a problem he had when he was young, from overthinking. In the past, when Emily Thompson was by his side, she would often prepare tonics for him. Thinking of this, he suddenly thought of the woman, Emily Thompson, who had been with him for 20 years. In the past, no matter how big their conflicts were, as long as he felt a little uncomfortable somewhere, Emily Thompson would always put down her anger and come to take care of his body. Especially in these years, his heart wasn't good, and Emily Thompson had taken care of all the big and small things at home. The way Emily Thompson used to take care of him and Sophia Green's attitude just now formed a sharp contrast. For the first time, Jack Moore missed Emily Thompson a little. He suddenly thought of the old saying, "A couple should have grown up together." Thinking of this, Jack Moore took out his cell phone and dialed the number that he knew by heart. Unexpectedly, the cell phone, which had always been answered instantly, couldn't be reached. He found Emily Thompson's number and sent her a message, only to find that he had been blacklisted by Emily Thompson. Jack Moore smiled bitterly. Yes, Emily Thompson had already divorced him, and besides, he had done things so decisively, what reason did Emily Thompson have to treat him the same as before? Suddenly, a burst of rapid footsteps interrupted Jack Moore's thoughts. He looked at the time and realized that he had been sitting on the sofa in the workplace/office for 5 hours. The assistant hurriedly pushed open the door of the workplace/office, looking at Jack Moore and saying breathlessly, "Mr. Carter, I've found it. The chairman of the company that has been investing in our Moore Enterprises is named Kenneth Thompson." Jack Moore jumped up from the sofa, and a piercing pain came from his head again, but he didn't care about any of this. He looked at the flustered assistant in front of him and questioned him sternly. "What's his name?" "Kenneth. Kenneth Thompson." "Oh, right, and the board of directors of that company. There is a person whose name is Emily Thompson, Mr. Carter. This is too coincidental. I remember your previous wife was called Emily Thompson, wasn't she?" Jack Moore collapsed onto the sofa. Over the years, he had his doubts, but looking at Emily Thompson's serene and simple demeanor, he could never have imagined she came from such a prominent family. But it was true. Hearing this news, Jack Moore suddenly felt energized. Having spent nearly 20 years with Emily Thompson, a woman willing to lower herself to spend so many long and arduous days with him, and who had undergone a hysterectomy for his selfish desires, Jack Moore wasn't sure of much in this world. But one thing he was certain of was Emily Thompson's love for him. He knew he had done wrong, but Emily Thompson had hinted that day that if he hardened his heart and abandoned the child he had been keeping outside, she would forgive him. Thinking of this, Jack Moore smoothed his disheveled hair, grabbed his car keys, and headed for the legendary Thompson family estate. 20 years later, returning to the Thompson family estate and seeing the familiar scenery, she couldn't help but sigh. All these years, to protect Jack Moore's pride and to prevent him from discovering her whereabouts, she hadn't returned to this place where she had grown up even once. Sometimes she found it laughable, unable to understand what kind of spell Jack Moore, such an ordinary man, had cast on her that she would sacrifice so much for him. Was it the kneeling outside the doctor's office 20 years ago? Or the sight of him weeping with her daughter's ashes on their wedding night? Or perhaps it was his fierce vitality, his desperate climb to the top? Unable to understand, she decided to simply stop thinking about it. The moment she opened the door, she saw her father reading on the sofa and her mother bustling in the kitchen, just as they had been when she left 20 years ago. Her father slowly put down his book, and her mother hurriedly wiped her hands and rushed towards her, embracing her tightly and stroking her back repeatedly. When she spoke, her voice trembled. "Ashley, Mom's good girl, you've suffered so much outside all these years. Thankfully, things will be better from now on. With your father here, I'll see who dares to bully you." Her father, watching her tearful mother, chuckled from the sofa. "Look at you, you old woman. It's a good thing our daughter's home. Why are you crying? Cry any more, and the roast beef in the pot will burn." Ashley sniffed and patted her mother's back. "Mom, I think I smell something burning." Her mother playfully tapped her shoulder, drying the tears from the corners of her eyes with a smile. "It's been 20 years, and you're still ganging up with your father to tease me." With that, she turned to look at Ashley and went back to the kitchen. Watching her mother's aging back as she left, a wave of sadness washed over her. She wasn't a good daughter. 20 years ago, she had stubbornly left home, not only making her father worry about the affairs of Moore Enterprises at such an old age, but now, having suffered grievances outside, she was troubling them to worry about her again. Her father seemed to sense her thoughts, and he put down his book, slowly came over, and put his arm around her shoulders. "Ashley, don't feel burdened. As long as your mom and dad are here, you'll always be our treasure. When you left home 20 years ago, your dad was already preparing for something like this. Of course, your mom and dad hoped this day would never come, but since it has, it's nothing. It's just a matter of your dad saying a few words." Her father's words made her burst into tears uncontrollably. She knew that things weren't as simple as saying a few words. Without her father's meticulous maintenance of the intricate relationships over the years, how could he have kept it hidden so well and reacted so quickly after the incident? But she knew he was saying this to avoid making her sad. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and looked at her father. "Don't worry, Dad. I am, after all, the daughter of Kenneth Thompson, an industrial magnate. I won't be crushed so easily. Don't you and Mom worry about me." Her words brought a hearty laugh from her father. She knew he could relax a little now. Ashley thought she and Jack Moore would never meet again in this lifetime. A woman who was willing to bear him a child out of wedlock must be a fool. Whether Jack Moore was rich or poor, she would surely stay by his side. But that evening, just after Ashley, her mom, and her dad had finished dinner, the nanny came to report, "Sir, a Mr. Carter has been standing outside the gate for 3 hours, refusing to leave and insisting on seeing Miss Ashley." Her father's face, which had been smiling, instantly turned cold. Just as he was about to wave the nanny away, Ashley paused for a moment and said to her father in a low voice, "Dad, I'll go see him." After all, they had 20 years of entanglement, and they had to meet to clear things up. Her mother gave her father a look, and her father looked at her helplessly, his eyes full of concern. "Go ahead, Ashley, but don't leave the T.E. Don't worry, your mom and dad are home. No one dares to bully you." Ashley smiled and agreed, then went outside. It had only been a few days, but she hadn't expected Jack Moore to age so much. His stubble was unshaven, his clothes were disheveled, and his eyes were bloodshot. She knew he must have been working hard recently because of her father's actions. Seeing her come out, Jack Moore's emotions suddenly became agitated. Not waiting for the nanny to fully open the gate, he got out of the car and rushed towards her. When he saw her, he hugged her tightly, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Ashley, I'm sorry. In the end, I did something to hurt you. I've figured out what happened these past 20 years. You've been secretly helping me all along. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. I've come here today specifically to apologize to you, Ashley. Can you forgive me? I remember what you said that day. You said that if I gave up the woman outside and brought the child back, you would still forgive me. Today, I've come to tell you that I don't want the child anymore. All I want is you." Ashley gently pushed Jack Moore away, looking at the face of the man she had spent 20 years with, now feeling so unfamiliar. "Howard, if it wasn't me who supported Moore Enterprises all these years, if I were just a housewife nearing 50 with a fading appearance, would you still be willing to come here and apologize to me today?" She had known when Jack Moore appeared outside the estate that all he wanted was the billions of dollars in wealth that he had missed out on, not the love that they had shared for 20 years. Jack Moore hadn't expected her to ask this, and his body froze in place. "Howard, we both already know the answer. 20 years, and I'm only realizing today that I don't understand you. 20 years ago, I always thought you were affectionate, brave, and a real man. So even though you came from a poor background and had no money, I could still wholeheartedly stay by your side. That was because your character gave me courage. But today, you're greedy, selfish, and cowardly. Or rather, you've always been like this for the past 20 years, but it was only because of my father's protection that you appeared so radiant. Howard, Emily Thompson, look down on a man like that. So, keep the last bit of your self-respect and let's end our relationship with a less melodramatic conclusion, okay? Ashley, you know how important Moore Enterprises is to me. I can't live without Moore Enterprises. I'll die without Moore Enterprises." In an instant, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She couldn't understand why she had fallen for such a man in the first place. "Howard, 20 years ago, you had nothing. Now, I'm just letting you go back to where you started. Just consider these 20 years a dream. Now, your dream and mine should both end. As for whether you live or die, you don't need to tell me these things. You're an adult, and you should be responsible for your own life." With that, she turned and left. When she went out, she was thinking that if Jack Moore was willing to act like a man and not mention the equity or the illusory assets, she was worried that she would impulsively forgive him. But the current Jack Moore only made her feel disgusted. The Thompson family estate was not a place for Jack Moore to run wild, so as soon as she turned around, the security guards grabbed Jack Moore and threw him out the gate. The Lynn family's gate would never be opened to him again. She received news about Jack Moore again 3 days later. Moore Enterprises, a business empire that had lasted for nearly 20 years, had finally collapsed in just a few days. Jack Moore, at the age of 50, was saddled with billions of dollars in debt. She heard that Sophia Green had long since disappeared, leaving Jack Moore with a paternity test before she left. The boy named Tommy Moore was not Jack Moore's son at all. Jack M.O. or turned completely white overnight and finally, on an unknown morning, jumped from the top of Moore Tower with his 80-year-old mom Moore. When her father told her this news, the hand holding the knife paused for a moment. Life was unpredictable. She had imagined so many endings for her and Jack Moore, but she had never imagined such a tragic one. The robin that often came when she was young seemed to have stopped in the estate again. She felt as if she had returned to her childhood. Howard, goodbye. This was a karmic debt. I hope we never meet again in the next life.